We are back with another outstanding episode of the Sharp Football Show. Happy to have you guys on board. We are going to be doing our annual win totals draft. I'm going to be joined by a couple of the experts from Sharp Football Analysis, and we're going to be picking which teams we think are going to win the most games this year and discussing some of our logic. So stay tuned. You're going to want to find out who won last year, and we'll see who's going to win this year. You decide which team you like the best as we pick all of these teams. But first, a real quick announcement. We are running a big 25% off site-wide sale over at Sharp Football Analysis that you are not going to want to miss. 25% off everything at the site. Last season, a $100 bettor won over $15,000 following all of our betting recommendations. And we started off hot in week one, and we are about to release week one recommendations starting potentially tomorrow, as in Wednesday. We're going to be releasing week one betting recommendations. We're going to have another wave of futures out for you. I believe we have 21 futures already locked in for the upcoming season. We've got more that are going to be coming tomorrow. I've already talked with Rich and Ray about a couple of these, and they're on board with them. So I'm looking forward to getting these into your hands tomorrow. So you want a futures package? Go use the code SHOW25 over at sharp.football. That'll get you in, and you can use code SHOW25 and get a futures package, 25% off. But don't forget, week one betting recommendations. Why is it important to start week one? Last year, we went 29 wins and 14 losses in week one across college and NFL. That was a 67% win rate, a $100 bettor, cleaned up nearly $2,000 just in week one betting recommendations alone. So you're going to want to get on board. Use code SHOW25, 25% off everything. Let's get started with our show today. All right, let's welcome in Rich Hribar, our fantasy football expert, and we'll welcome in Ray Summerlin, who's our editor extraordinaire and helps out in fantasy and betting and everything in between. And of course, if you guys were tuned in last year, you know that Ray is our defending champion of this wins total draft. So Ray, I got to ask you this, you're looking ahead to the draft today. What was your secret to your success in the 2024 win total draft? Was there a particular team that you ended up going with that really carried the load for you? Were you just doing it based off vibes? Was there a particular strategy that you utilized? What did you do last year, and what are you thinking that you might be trying to do this year to go back to back this season?
Well, as y'all know, I just live off vibes. And so I'm always just living off vibes. And so that was part of it. Last year, my much maligned take about the Denver Broncos last year brought me to glory in this competition. I came into the draft with a leave here with the Broncos at all cost mentality, left with the Broncos. That helped. I believe I ended up with the 49ers against my will almost in the first round, but it was just one of those things based on their win total that I had to take them. And so that wasn't great, but I was able to come back with a couple teams, the Broncos most notably, who I was in love with last year. Still love them this year. We'll see where that goes. But I do have a couple more of those teams. I don't want to give away my secrets, but I do have a couple of those teams near the bottom of the win total projections that I'm targeting. Although I think one of those teams, all three of us are targeting, so I don't know if they're going to get to us, but we'll see how this plays out.
All right. So obviously, Rich is going to be going here. He'll be either the second or third pick. We'll find out with a coin flip momentarily. But Rich, it is a big week in the fantasy football streets because all of those season-long leagues, those drafts are starting up in earnest now and over the course of the next 7 days or so. What do you have for people that might be interested in utilizing the code SHOW25, going over and buying your fantasy football draft kit? What are some of the best things that are going on in the fantasy football selection for prospective clients for 2025?
Yeah, you mentioned big time kind of week. Everyone's doing their home leagues, their main events, trying to cram in their last Best Ball Manias, DraftKings, Millie, Max Centers. If you've got some bullets left to fire in there, it's just kind of be a big, draft smorgasbord this week. I did put out the draft kit this year, which ended up having, over 60 articles in it, which you can check out, at the site. I'll be writing up some week one games here very shortly. But yeah, it's just kind of like the real exciting time. Although 6 months of work kind of leads up to this.
Yeah, you've put in the hours. So let me ask you this: someone like myself who might be looking at, they find this video and they want to know why you have the best information in the NFL redraft streets for fantasy football. That's what I believe. That's what Ray believes. But I only have about an hour or so to get ready for my draft. I'm interested in your content. What it would make the best use of my time so that I can process my new purchase over at Sharp Football Analysis using the 25% off code on your draft kit. How can you get me ready for my draft in about an hour or so? What should I be looking at?
Pretty easily. The last series I did was just position by position, exactly how I'm drafting each position. So you can go through and it's got targets, sleepers and players that we're looking to draft at every single position, where you should be targeting them in drafts. Kind of some notes based on your kind of scoring and formats, but literally holding your hands kind of the answers to the test type of vibes.
Yeah, so Rich has his rankings, all of his tiers. If you have more time to go through all of those, and you can use those rankings in form of.
You can't do those in an hour, unfortunately.
Can't get through those tiers in an hour. That was days of Ray's life devoted to editing those.
Well, it was weeks of Rich life, so I don't know why we're talking about me. But yeah, all of those were updated. We even have a PDF that I forget how many pages the PDF came out to of all of them compiled. It was something like 300 or something to that respect. And so that's a lot in the tiers. But as I always say, if you want to really know what you're doing going into a fantasy draft, you need to read the tiers. The tiers are where you need to go. But those position by position, how Rich is drafting is really insightful, not just from like, these are the players I like, but this is how I'm approaching the position. And this is why, with links back to some of the other work he's done in the draft kit as well. And a lot of just really interesting things to think about. In fact, just like a peek behind the curtain, Rich, myself, and Curtis Hirsch, who, one of our other fantasy guys, won a big fantasy content last year as well, had a really long conversation on a Saturday, because we're massive nerds, just about strategy. And it all comes out of Rich's work. And so much stuff in there, so many interesting things to read. It's definitely worth your time to dive into how Rich is approaching drafts and why he's approaching them that way.
No doubt about it. So hopefully you guys take advantage of that, because it's time and it's here. So with that said,
Warren, did you enjoy us just having random opportunity cost conversations in the Slack on a Saturday? Was that a fun time to spend your day when you're watching that terrible Kansas State Iowa State game? I guess it got better. First half of that game was awful. Did you enjoy it?
No, I did. Look, this is not my expertise. This is not my area, but I enjoyed hearing the very highly educated discussions back and forth about the strategy that goes into some of your recommendations. I know a lot of people out there, and Rich has this discussion a lot frequently, is do you want to just teach someone how to fish, or do you just want to give them the fish? And so many people just want the fish, but I know you guys certainly have that wealth of knowledge back there that you could be teaching people how to fish for a long time as well. So it's really great to be working with guys, as astute as yourselves and as successful in the fantasy football space. I think everybody out there who's listening could take advantage of that. But this is going to be fun for us now. All of our months of work leading into preparation for the season comes to, what do we think of these teams? And this is a great a great exercise to try to show you guys what we think of all of these teams. So the way this is going to work is we're each going to pick teams in a snake order, the three of us, and whichever team, each individual over here, has the best, the highest number of total wins by the teams that they've selected is going to win this contest. Now, last year, as we mentioned, Ray won the contest. I think he's still got his prize sitting in his freezer, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you've pulled out the Gold Belly order yet, Ray, or when is that a Labor Day thing?
Yeah, so on Sunday, there'll be some people coming over. We're going to dine on Snow's Barbecue, the wonderful Snow's Barbecue, by the way, if you ever find yourself in Texas and want to make a little bit of a drive into more of the country. Snow's Barbecue sitting in the freezer, going to warm it up on Sunday. We're going to be ready to go. It's going to be a wonderful Labor Day by the pool. Thank you very much, Denver Broncos, for bringing that to me. I can't wait to draft the Broncos again. Just on that, just bringing me brisket.
Do it now, coward. Take them right now.
I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about it for the memes.
All right, so let's figure out who's going to go pick number 2 or 3. We've got producer Adam with a virtual coin here. Rich, I'll let you call it. What do you want?
You go ahead. You call it.
All right,
I'm
I'll go heads because this thing has flipped heads 3 straight times, and I'm just going to go for the 5s again. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey!
I don't know that this is a real coin or not. What's going on here? I'm gonna go pick number 3. I don't know the right strategy here of which is better, but I'll go pick number 3. So that means Rich is number 2. Ray, you can kick us off. Who are you picking as your first selection?
Well, while I would like to pick the Broncos, I will not be doing that. I will be instead taking the Buffalo Bills, which I do think is the easiest selection that we have here. They're in what I think is a bad division, although one of those teams in the division I think we're all higher than maybe consensus on, or it doesn't, maybe not even higher than consensus anymore, the way people like it. They have a top 5 strength of schedule. They've double-digit wins in each of the last 6 seasons. I don't think they're the best team in the league. Like, I do think that there are some issues that they have for sure, but as long as they have Josh Allen healthy, as long as they're in that division, we've seen their history of just piling up 11, 12, 13 win seasons ever since, his second year in the league. Everything about that points to the Bills. I don't really think there's a strong challenger in the division, like I said. And so, if I was just picking teams to, be the best, they probably wouldn't be my number 1 pick. But you put it all together, and I think it's a no-brainer that the Bills should be the number 1 pick in an exercise like this for win totals.
I can't argue with anything you said there. I don't disagree whatsoever. They would be my 1.1 overall. Rich, would they have been your 1.1?
No, I still would have taken the Chiefs. So I'll just take the Chiefs now. I mean, it's just tried and true, double-digit wins every year since 2015, 12 or more in 6 of the past 7 seasons. Still have the best quarterback in the NFL, arguably the best defensive coordinator. I'm just going to keep riding the Chiefs, making it easy at the top.
Do you have any concerns? Because this was my thing about the Chiefs. And I mean, obviously, the history, much like the Bills, the history tells the story. But do you have any concerns about the way they got there last year? And how many one-score
Yeah, they're just an F-around
stuff.
team. They just don't care about stats anymore. It's interesting because, in the fantasy streets, a lot of people are like bullish on like, oh, they're going to be throwing deep again and like all this stuff. And I just don't know statistically, like, everyone's locked and loaded on Mahomes. Is he a potential value at like QB6 and like these middle rounds? Like, I still have a hard time kind of getting there because I just don't think that they even care about like the statistically, like what they accomplish anymore. They just they're all about Super Bowls, man.
You can call me out for wanting to draft Tyquan Thornton. You could say my name and call me out.
Listen, you can take whoever you want in round 18 or round 20. I won't fight you.
That in a way, though, that's sort of the strategy of the Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator. Joe Brady, he doesn't care who's the receiver that's getting the stats. All they care about is just winning their games. And I think it is going to be interesting. I really felt like the Chiefs were, due to the injuries at the receiver position, they were playing very tight last year, and they just wanted to get to the Super Bowl to be the first team to ever three-peat and just have that opportunity. And I don't know, they just played so tight in all these third down conversions. I don't think that's sustainable this year, but I really do believe that this is a team that could open things up a lot earlier in games and try to build leads a lot quicker and not play so close to the vest as they were doing last year, especially with the health that they've gotten, the fact that they got lucky that Rashee Rice isn't going to be suspended for week 1. So I'm really excited to see this game that kicks off in about a week and a half in Brazil against the LA Chargers. I think that's going to be a fun game on a Friday night. Okay. The part of the reason that I wanted to go third is I wanted the chance at 2 of the top 4 teams, because based on win totals, at least there is like a 4-team grouping high up. And so it doesn't matter what order I take these 2 teams in, but I'm going to go Ravens and then I'm going to go Eagles. Look, I'll start with the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, I don't see them taking a tremendous step back from where they were last year. They still are playing in a division where they've had a lot of success against the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that they can be better than the Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of winning those games. They've historically lost a lot of those games against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the past. I'm interested to see how Aaron Rodgers fits into this Arthur Smith offense. I don't know that they're going to have as much trouble with the Steelers this year as they have in some of the prior years. And then, of course, what are the Cleveland Browns? We don't know. That remains to be seen. So the Baltimore Ravens, for me, a solid team. And then the Philadelphia Eagles, the same type of thing. A lot of people some of the sharper people are projecting that the Philadelphia Eagles take a step back. Is it going to be the offensive line shows a little bit of wear and tear? Is it going to be the defense doesn't play quite as well? I think Vic Fangio the longer that guys are in his system, the better they tend to get. So I think from a coaching perspective, Vic is going to continue to maximize that defensive side of the ball. The O-line may take a little step back. I don't know how the new offensive coordinator is going to work out here, but I still think this is one of the most fundamentally sound teams that can beat you with a variety of ways, whether it's offense, defense. So I think that's going to be my fourth pick, and it's the fourth overall pick, and now it's back to Rich for the fifth pick.
Yeah, back to me. I guess I will sit here and I'll still stick with the Lions, even with some questions here, just because it's a bet on Dan Campbell. What I do like about Dan Campbell is that Dan Campbell actively tries to win games instead of just lose them. So he's been like obviously the best like kind of a head coach to be like have it in your pocket as a bettor. I do have some concerns, seeing what Ben Johnson, getting replaced with John Morton, losing Aaron Glenn, losing a couple offensive linemen, but still from a talent perspective, the defense is healthier. Could even be better this year too on paper. So I'll just stick with the Lions and just kind of follow the win totals. Last year, I was going to do it kind of like what Ray did, just went down the list, and I'll just keep taking kind of the top teams, I think.
I mean, yeah, like that. Shouldn't that be what we do? Like,
yeah,
isn't that
probably,
like
obviously, probably. But last year I started to get like a little cute and be like, in like rounds 2 and 3, like I'm just gonna go and take this team because I think they'll be good this year.
Yeah, no, and it's fair because I actually am going to deviate from that plan because if we were taking that plan, the next team up would be the 49ers, who I mean, I do have some, there are obviously reasons to like the 49ers and expect to bounce back, but I also like, are curses real? Like, is that a real thing that I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate recently, and now I'm beginning to wonder if the 49ers are cursed. I'm actually not going to take the 49ers here. The first team I'm going to take, and this is going out on a limb because it requires Matthew Stafford to stay healthy, but that is the Los Angeles Rams. I really like the Rams top to bottom roster. Obviously, if Stafford is not healthy, then this falls apart. They do have a better backup this year than they did last year. And maybe maybe that system's good and maybe it all works out. But when I look on defense, and specifically when you look at that front, they have so many young players that should theoretically be ascending. It's possible that they're even better on that side of the ball, moving forward, just from like a talent perspective. You obviously I think replacing Cooper Kupp and what we saw with Cooper Kupp last year, even when he was healthy, with Devontae Adams is an improvement. I think everything with the Rams points to them being a very, very good team, and they just need Matthew Stafford to stay healthy. I like the Rams to win that division, so I'm taking them over the 49ers. I don't know if that may be the right decision to make with the uncertainty we have with Stafford, but going out on a limb there. And then my next pick, I am flirting with my love, but I actually am going to take the Green Bay Packers here. I think the Packers are set up. I think the Packers are. I don't know if I would take them straight up against the Lions to win that division, but if we're talking about odds, I like the Packers quite a bit. They won 11 games last year, and Jordan Love wasn't really healthy for any of them. The defense was 5th in yards per play allowed, 6th in points per drive allowed. They need their pass rush to be better, more consistent. I don't know if that's definitely going to happen, but they didn't really have any massive losses on that side. The division is tough, but the strength of schedule isn't like, it's not like the worst thing that they could have. And I really like the Packers. I think that their defense is good. Their offense could be a lot better than it was last year if Jordan Love stays healthy. And their offense was already good, but I think it could be more explosive than it was last year, especially with Golden in there. And so, yeah, I'm all in on the Packers this year, both from a just real life perspective and from a fantasy perspective, drafting a ton of Jordan Love over at DraftKings. And so, yeah, I'm going to take the Packers here, both of them over the Rams and Packers, over my love, my Broncos, and we'll see how this works out.
Speaking of love, I've got to interrupt here. I'm disgusted by a message that I just received, an update from Adam Schefter on the biggest cut down days of the year. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift announced their engagement on Instagram. Why is this coming out from an ESPN app for Adam Schefter News for me? It's on
because people care. Because people care about it. I mean, like, did you see that her going on that podcast was like they had like 1 million people watching at the same time? It's a business. It's entertainment. People care.
Well, it is, and I know the NFL. I just see the NFL tweeting about it. They care too. But this is supposed to be a news feed. We could send out to all of our subscribers, Ray, a quick email announcing it as well. But
I'm
the
not
point
against
is,
that. I'm not against that just because I would love to see what the replies. I would love for our support email to just be inundated with replies. That might actually be fun to watch.
So to me, it's great. Congratulations for them. Has nothing to do with Adam Schefter needing to tweet it out as relates to football news, which I am subscribed to. Football news alerts, not personal life announcements. At any rate, on to you, Rich.
I'm gonna go with another high. I was actually eyeballing the Packers. I actually thought I almost considered taking them over the Lions too. So since I missed that pick, I'll try to protect my other one. Just like a real high floor pick. I'm gonna take the Houston Texans. Just double-digit wins in both the CJ Stroud seasons. I think it's a play on the division too as well. The AFC South, I don't really believe in the other three teams, and they probably have a top 5 defense in football. I think also this Joe Mixon injury could actually be kind of a blessing in disguise for the Texans because they might just actually run their offense through their best player, which is CJ Stroud, instead of, trying to hand off like PFF Bobby did for a couple of years there with Joe Mixon. So, I'll take the Texans here. I think they're a floor of double-digit wins here.
All right, that's aggressive. I'm going to go with the pick that you guys keep ignoring, and that's the San Francisco 49ers. I'll just go ahead and take the layup. It seems like a logical move here. Look, Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy, CMC, hopefully those guys are healthy this season. And if they are, with Robert Saleh coming back to help coach up that defense, I still think this team has a really high floor. Obviously, if we see a massive contingent of injuries, that's an issue, but they play by far the easiest schedule in the NFL as we sit here looking ahead towards what we're expecting. Will it break like that? To be determined, but I'll go ahead and take the San Francisco 49ers. And then I'm going to go ahead and take the team that helped Ray win $200 worth of gold, Belly, and that's the Denver Broncos. I think the Denver Broncos are another team in the AFC West that I like more than the Chargers. They have one of the best defenses, if not the best, in the NFL. I think they've got that high floor thanks to a very solid offensive line, balanced run game, passing attack. Everything that I'm seeing there, year 2 of Bo Nix, I think this team deserves that higher win total bump that they received in the betting market from the odds makers when they set it this year. And I think that they offer good upside, and I think the floor is pretty high on this team as well. So I'm going with the Denver Broncos. Now it's back to you, Rich.
Can I just, since I didn't get the Broncos, can I just say something about them? Because I worry there's going to be a misconception because they were so surprising last year. Nothing about what they did last year was fluky. Nothing about it. Like they actually underperformed their expected win-loss last season. It wasn't a fluke. Like everything about this screams real. The defense was good last year, even if nobody noticed it was going to be good. The defense is great. We get now Evan Ingram in there, right? We see maybe they're going to actually play Marvin Mims, it seems like, which please, for all of the DraftKings drafts I've done, please play Marvin Mims more than 50% of the routes. Yeah, I was hoping y'all would be merciful on me and let the Broncos come back. But here we are. I think they're going to be very good.
They just got to beat someone good this year.
Hey, why not?
No, that's where we are. That's where we are in the draft, though. It's these teams that are good, but still have kind of, they have to make that next step, right? Like we know that these teams are good. The Broncos and the team I'm going to take's in the same boat, right? A team that kind of snuck up. I'll take the Commanders here, and like they need to prove that they're going to take the next step, right? Like you got to punch up and punch above your weight class. They're not going to sneak up on anyone this year. The schedule's going to flip. They go from an easy schedule to a hard schedule. I think they play the most teams that had double-digit wins last year, but it's still a bet on an organization that has quarterback right. They improve the offensive line and they improve the defense again in free agency. So I'll just take them here and hope that they can outlast kind of the Giants and Cowboys in that division. So I'll take the Commanders.
I have one really easy pick here, and I just made it. It is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That pick is very easy for me. Injuries are a concern, certainly with this team, with Godwin and Wirfs. That's a concern. But I think we've talked about. I've been on this team as actually good train for a while. This isn't just like their division thing. You would like to see them take more commanding control over this division, given the state of it. But I think that this team is just ultimately good. They have the 10th easiest schedule. Probably the worst team in the league is in their division with the Saints. The other three teams of the division project for just 19.5 wins based on Vegas win total. So you have the division there for them as well. I think everything points to the Bucs being a really good pick at this point in the draft. But I'm going to actually, before I make my pick, I want to ask y'all, is this the line for y'all when y'all were kind of going through the teams and who you wanted to pick? This was really the line for me where I was like, after this, I'm not that interested in most of these teams. Is that where y'all are as well?
Probably one more round and then I'm there.
One more round. I hate better than anybody, I suppose, is the thing. I guess I'm going to take the Chargers. I guess I'm just going to do it so no one else has to do it. They've already had the injury issue with Slater. I do think there's some upside on that defense. They hit on some younger guys last year, especially on defense. What they're able to do with their three safeties, I think, is really good. And so I think that defense could be good again. But just the offensive line questions, some of the offense questions, we obviously need to see it from Herbert. The division is tough. We've already taken, obviously two teams ahead of them in this division. It could be tough again. I think the Chargers are good. I think Justin Herbert is good, but there's just so many little things on top of it just being the Chargers that you're like, I don't know about this team.
Can't argue with you on that, Ray. Look, you pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who lost Tristan Wirfs. Then you come back and you take the Chargers, who lost their left tackle as well.
Wirfs, hold on. To be fair, Wirfs will be back relatively
He's coming back.
soon. He's coming back. He'll be fine.
He's coming back. But a team that's going to be going, Slater's not. A team that's going to be going, I don't know. We'll see when this team gets off the board. But the Atlanta Falcons, that was an interesting team for me in the NFC South, along with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The issue is they just lost their left tackle as well. So we've got three key teams that lost their left tackle. All three of these teams have
their right tackle.
Right tackle.
Sorry, their right tackle, Caleb McGarry. And his backup is also out as well. So you've got all these tackles from some of these teams that are vying for playoff seeding, that they now have to work around that. And the issue is, how do they make those adjustments? And then they have to make sure that they don't lose anybody else, because the overall quality of that line is already entering the season a little bit down. So we'll see how that goes. Rich, what are you looking at here for your next one?
Yeah, and to be fair, Michael Penix is left-handed, so it's still his blind side, the right tackle. So blind side tackle, for Michael Orr fans out there. I'll go here. I'll take the Minnesota Vikings here, and it's just a bet on kind of the infrastructure. I mean, this is a team that's won a lot of games under Kevin O'Connell. Obviously, you have the first-year sample of J.J. McCarthy, but I think that the way they structurally built their team to insulate J.J. McCarthy this year is a pro. They've had some wide receiver injuries, but Jordan Addison will be back after the suspension. Justin Jefferson looks like they took the precautionary measures. They had two offensive linemen. They had a power back in Jordan Mason, and then Brian Flores and his defense is going to continue to be creative. To me, it was kind of like, do I want to take the third team in the third team in the NFC North or the third team in the AFC North? And I'll just take bets on the NFC team over the AFC team, given the strength of the AFC being so much stronger than the NFC.
I can't argue it there. I was going to look at the Minnesota Vikings with one of my next two picks. So you take that one from me, but I'll just go with the Cincinnati Bengals here, that from a win total perspective, I'm getting a little bit of value in drafting them here at this spot. Not that I think that the Cincinnati Bengals, the issue that I have with the Cincinnati Bengals, I've talked about this in the book, which you can get it for 25% off if you haven't already, using code SHOW25. And by the way, use code SHOW25 to get 25% off all of our site-wide, anything that we've got up there, all of Rich's draft kit and in-season fantasy information, which, by the way, if you guys are listening to this and you bought the draft kit or you got the draft kit at a nice discount, now is the time to get the in-season stuff, because when you're reading this, within a few days, Rich is going to start breaking down week 1 games, and you're going to want those previews to know who to start or sit for your week 1 rosters. Rich is going to be one of the first people in the industry to have those to you. So you need to get the in-season upgrade. If you got the draft kit, you're missing like the most important part of everything, which is your in-season ability to maintain your roster, as well as go and try to find some waiver wire guys. And of course, week 1, one of these teams that we already selected here, I'm looking at some week 1 bets that very well might come out starting tomorrow, Wednesday. So 25, show 25 gets you 25% off that. I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals here. And, look, I wavered with going with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I just took the Cincinnati Bengals over the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm not going to double dip in the AFC North. I think that the Arizona Cardinals, their defense has nowhere to go but up, and they really loaded up on that side of the football. And if that defense makes any type of progress this season, the offense doesn't have to do too much to be able to hit that 8.5, 9 win total mark that I'm sort of looking for in this area of the draft. I don't like Kyler Murray as a quarterback. I think he has some severe deficiencies, some areas to his game that are problematic, whether it's his tendency to pick up injuries and lose games later on in the season, whether it's his inability to really stretch the field deep anymore, it seems. But they've got a solid O-line with a solid run game. And if that defense takes a step forward, coupled with their schedule, I think it's a team that's in a decent spot here. So I don't love this one. Obviously, my least favorite pick that I've made thus far. But what are you going to do here? Rich, back to you.
Yeah, like I said, we were about one more round, and now we're going to start to take the teams that we're just we're betting on, right? I'm actually going to stay in the same division of you. A team that I outright like more than the Cardinals is the Seattle Seahawks. I just think that they have a top 5 defense in the NFL on paper. And I think structurally they're going to play a brand of football that Mike McDonald wanted to play last year, but Ryan Grubb just couldn't calibrate, properly. He couldn't coach around the offensive line deficiencies. I mean, this is a team I think that's structurally going to just run the football, play action pass game, try not to, lose games on offense, let their defense do work. They're also, and maybe it's just an NFC West thing. So we've talked about the 49ers schedules and the Cardinal schedule. The Seattle Seahawks schedule looks like it's extremely favorable front to back. They've got a really nice layout. Even some of their harder games to open the year are at home, which I like. Like they get San Francisco and Houston as home games, which I like. They get the Bucks also as a home game. So I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks here. They're kind of a sneaky team that I think is going to be a lot better. Actually, they won 10 games last year, so maybe it's not even sneaky.
Well, and you mentioned you just to interject real quick, Rich, you mentioned about they couldn't play the style of offense that they wanted to play last year. This team has used 40% less 11 personnel so far in the preseason on early downs. They're definitely moving towards that heavier personnel grouping package. I'm really interested to see how they start off the season. Keep in mind what the Saints did last year to really surprise some teams coming out the gate the first couple of weeks. Of course, week 3, Vic Fangio had a beat on what to do, slowed down that offense. But those first couple of weeks, the Saints came out like gangbusters with this very same offensive coordinator. So it's going to be interesting to see how that looks up in Seattle with Sam Darnold at the helm. But interesting way that this team is going to look a lot different offensively.
But you said, sleeper, you don't know if they were sleeper because they won so many games. I still don't think people recognize, I think, how good this defense is. This defense is very good. And obviously if you're listening to any of the fantasy football podcasts, you know that Zach Charbonnet is my one true love. In fact, as we've been doing this, I had a slow draft pick come up in which I drafted Zach Charbonnet. And so we are all in on that.
The picks are Zach Charbonnet, all the slow picks.
I pick Zach Charbonnet no matter what. We're gonna have all Zach Charbonnet all the time. I was going to pick the Seahawks here. I'm a little bit disappointed I'm not going to have the chance to do that. I guess I have to take the Steelers. I guess that is something that I do. I just have to take the Steelers here because I don't like the Bengals. I don't like the Bengals. Obviously, the Browns might not even get drafted here. And so if I'm looking at, all right, somebody's got to come second in that division. I think the Ravens are unquestionably going to win it. I think that they are very clearly the best team because I'm not a fan of the Bengals defense and kind of what we saw Joe Burrow have an absolutely elite season, and it led to them almost making the playoffs last year. They probably should have made the playoffs, but it led to them almost making the playoffs. I don't think the defense is any better. Somebody's got to be second in the division. I think it's going to be the Steelers. And so I'll go ahead and take the Steelers here, even though I'm not super excited about that. And then I have a bit of a tricky pick here with who this next one is. There are several teams that I am interested in, but kind of in that same vein of just picking the team that I think will probably finish second in their division. I'm going to take the New England Patriots here. And I'm just going to say, this is probably not from a win total perspective the right pick, although it's not that far off based on kind of how people have felt. But I think the Dolphins are, like, they are one of those teams that's set up to just really have a year from hell. I'm not expecting much from them. We'll see what happens with the Jets. I think the Patriots have a really good shot to finish second in this division. Obviously, I already had the Bills at first, but you're going to have this two teams in at least a few of these divisions. So I'm happy to take the Patriots here, see what they can do with Vrabel, who I think, at the very least, if you have questions about Vrabel and what that, his ceiling can be after watching him in Tennessee, I think those questions are fair. But I do think he's going to set a floor here. They had a ton of talent on defense. They helped out the offensive line. Stephon Diggs looks healthy, which, if that's the case, it's going to be a much better situation for Drake May than it was last year. I know Rich and I are both high on Drake May from a fantasy perspective this year. All of it points to the Patriots having a good year. Like, I don't think I'd bet on them to make the playoffs, but I do think they can finish second in this division. And ultimately, that's pretty good value here at this point in the draft.
Yeah, it is solid value at the place that you took them. They were the next logical team to go, I think, from a win totals perspective. Their win total has been opened very high. I don't want to say it's been bet up, because it hasn't, but it opened really high, very aggressive, and they have the second easiest schedule by our strength of schedule metrics. Year 2 of Drake May, new head coach. The vibes certainly being favored in 11 games this year are very high in New England. So it's up to them to deliver. They open week 1. I mean, I'm already starting to focus on week 1 here, but they open up their week 1 schedule hosting Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, the Las Vegas Raiders. So that's going to be a fun, interesting game with some teams with different head coaches there vying for one another's to start the season 1-0 week 1. But Rich, who do you have next?
Nobody.
You gonna pass?
They're all. None of these teams I have any confidence in remaining. There's a couple teams I think I want to try to push to maybe take some flyers on. I guess just by default of just kind of sticking with the logic of taking the team that's just next in projected win total, I guess I'll by default take the Dolphins and not feel good about it at any level. I will say this about the Dolphins: when I did kind of start to write up the games, I think their defense being bad is being oversold. I think their secondary has problems, but I actually think their front seven is legitimately good. I think their pass rush is legitimately good on paper too as well. And maybe that can just steal me something, but I don't like the vibes around Miami really at all.
I'll tell you this.
Their front seven, if Chop Robinson is what we saw from him last year, Penn State legend Chop Robinson, thank you. If Chop Robinson is what we saw from him last year, and they get back healthy versions of Phillips
Chubb and Phillips,
then that is a dynamic pass rush. Like, that is a very good pass rush.
They just added Judon. They did sign Rasul Douglas today. I don't know if that's going to be enough lipstick on the pig in the secondary, but it is a body.
The corner situation is so bad. But yeah, there are reasons to like this team for sure. But like, if we're doing a good old Ray Summerlin's vibe check on the Dolphins,
McDaniel's the favorite now for first coach fired.
Yeah, he's plus 200, first coach fired. I'll just tell you this. When I went on the multiple shows, I did a lot of podcasts, did a whole media tour this offseason talking about the book. You could go get this from Amazon, or you can also go pick it up from our website, 25% off with the code SHOW25. The Dolphin shows, one in particular, absolutely hated the fact that we had their front seven in this book, at least, ranked the 19th best. Now, they didn't argue too much about the secondary being 25th, I believe, but they believe that front seven, and I always like to listen and gauge, obviously a lot of local podcasts might be not objective about their teams, but they felt very strongly.
Well, I had
this
them
is
eighth,
borderline
so
top 10.
my ranking did not push down. I had them eighth in front seven rankings.
They loved the fact that this was a borderline top 10 unit. They thought it was top 10. I told them I probably think our rating is a little bit low, seeing what I've seen now, and maybe it's closer to just fringe top 10. They were like, we feel like our front seven is a top 10 unit in the NFL. Now, maybe not top 5. But
Ryan and Ray might have docked just for the injury factor stuff. Like,
yeah, there was, I can say I had them in 18th. It was part of that. I also don't think that their like defensive line group is great either. Like outside of Seiler, I don't know who you're going to there. Like it's the thing about the rankings in that range between like 10 and 20 is like, it's all kind of the same. Like that's kind of one of those things. But they do, like, if we were just ranking edge groups, if we were just ranking pass rushers and we knew that everybody was healthy, I do think Chop Robinson had an injury, but I think he's going to be fine. A week.
I had their secondary 30th. So
I had their secondary maybe 32nd. It's bad. It's tough scenes. Even with Mika Fitzpatrick coming in there, all Mika Fitzpatrick's coming in and doing is replacing who you lost from last year, right? With Holland and Poyer. Poyer's still a free agent, so I don't know how much that loss is, but that's all that you're really doing. And so it's the secondary is bad. But if we were just ranking, if we weren't including linebackers, defensive line, if we were just ranking edge groups, I'm 100% with them. That edge group has the potential to be very, very good.
All right, it's back to me now. And the logical team that I should be drafting based on a win totals perspective is the Chicago Bears. I think I'm going to go off the board a little bit, and I'm going to go with a team that plays a far easier schedule in a far easier division, who I think is going to get a lot of help from their new play caller, and that's the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think what Liam Cohen's going to bring to help Trevor Lawrence, I'm not a Trevor Lawrence fan. I think that's going to help a ton. We're in on the Jacksonville Jaguars from a futures perspective this year. We didn't do anything with their win total, but with some of their prop markets from player props perspective, I'm excited to see what this team can do. So I'm going to go ahead and take them there. And then this next pick, this is one of those where I don't really know. For the sake of just sticking with the board and having a decent floor, I'm probably going to go with the Chicago Bears, but it's not a pick that I'm excited to make. I'm very worried about their schedule. Their schedule is brutal. And so while we have a new play caller and a much improved offensive line, I still don't know if we're going to see that big leap that we need to get from Caleb Williams. And I do think that all these difficult opponents, there is a really valid argument to be made that like the Bears could be a team that wins only 5-6 games this year because they play in a lot of one-score games and the variance just works against them. Like I don't think this is a team that necessarily is going to just rocket ship up there. They're going to have to figure out a way to win those close games. Caleb Williams is going to have to play really good in those close games. So remains to be seen if that happens, but I'll go with the Chicago Bears here just for playing the board a little bit. What do you have, Rich?
I'm going to go off the board here too, since I already took one bad vibe team. I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, I mean, someone else has to win games in that division, and I think they're actually set up better than the Atlanta Falcons are to win games in that division. I think their offensive line is better than the Falcons. I don't know how all these free agents that they tried to pick up on defense are going to work out, but they at least tried to address having the worst run defense in NFL history last year, by spending a lot of money on Bobby Brown and Tershawn Wharton in the middle, adding Patrick Jones and Christian Roseman at linebacker. But it's kind of as a bet against the division, like Ray said, against the Buccaneers. I'm a little bit lower on the Buccaneers. I would have taken the Buccaneers where Ray did, but I'm a little bit lower on them being as good as they were a year ago. So if someone else is going to just win games in that division and maybe could be kind of sneaky, I like Carolina more than Dallas because Dallas still has to play Philadelphia and Washington 4 times.
Yeah, and I mean at this point we're 23 teams in, so
yes.
you're not gonna be feeling great. But
no.
the note that I wrote about the Panthers was I don't know how it's going to work out, but they at least tried, and I think that is really important.
You at least tried.
they at least tried to address their issues. They draft McMillan. They like you said, in free agency, tried to address the areas they needed to address in free agency. I don't know how good they're going to be. Even the good version of Bryce Young we got at the end of last year wasn't actually that great. It's a much better improvement. We're excited. We're excited to see where Bryce Young can go, but it still wasn't great. So I don't know, right? But at least they tried, which is not something I can say for the Dallas Cowboys, who I do think have to pick here. Yeah. And I was going to say, I wonder if the Dallas Cowboy fans would be mad that we let them get to this point going after the Jaguars and the Panthers. But like, Cowboys fans might be lower on the team than even we are at this point. At least the vibes from around me in San Antonio, which is a very, very strong Cowboys stronghold here. They're not great, but I do think I have to take them. They still have Dak Prescott. They still have CeeDee Lamb. I do think that they're just based on their offensive line and their running back situation, they're going to have to lean in the pass. And if they lean into the pass and they let Dak Prescott throw a lot to those guys, George Pickens, who both Rich and I are high on in fantasy, I think they're going to be able to score points as long as Prescott is healthy. And that, opens up the opportunity to get wins. It's, like you said, they might be the third best team in the division, and that's tough. But ultimately at this point in the draft, I'm fine taking a shot on Dak Prescott. Like, Dak Prescott is the best quarterback left on the board, right? Like, that's pretty easy, I think. So I'm feeling okay about getting him here. After
let
Prescott,
me ask you before you do your next pick, 2 questions. One, I want to go back, but first let me ask about the Cowboys. Micah Parsons, just your guys' guess on this. Obviously, he's not practicing yet because he's not coming to an agreement with them. When do you think the earliest is that he would, like, let's pretend he signed a deal on Thursday. Do you think he plays 100% of the snaps he should be playing week 1?
No.
The following Thursday night, because they play the first game of the season.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I mean, they're losing that game anyway, right? Like, if Parsons is there or not. So
I just don't know when we're going to see Parsons for this team. That's what I'm trying to figure out right now from a futures perspective. I
mean, team, as we've seen now in the last few days, we're recording this on a Wednesday. As Warren said, there's lots of news breaking, and he was deeply upset about the Taylor Swift news. It really cut off the Sam Hartman getting cut tweets, and he was really he needs to know about Sam Hartman. But we're seeing a bunch of news drop. But as we've seen the last couple of days, like with McLaurin and with Hendrickson, like, things just get done. I assume they'll get done. Players that are not named Le'Veon Bell don't miss game checks, or Hassan Reddick last year, to be fair. So there are, I assume something will get done here, but we'll certainly have to see. But to your point, does it matter that he's not available for them to play the Eagles? And is that going to sway the game? I don't know.
Well, I don't know that it's going to sway the winner or the loser, but from a betting perspective, laying the 7, putting the Eagles in a teaser, taking the Eagles team total, I think those things do factor in. So I'm already starting to think about, like, week 1, like I said, which is why you got to get on the week 1 betting package right now. Go to sharp.football, enter the code show 25% off. The other question that I have before you get your next pick, I wanted to get your guys' take as we sit here. The most hyped team this offseason, I don't know if you guys would agree, no doubt about it to me, was the Chicago Bears. The team that, like, as we entered the offseason and free agency and getting Ben Johnson and signing those offensive linemen early on and the potential for Caleb Williams, like, everybody was talking about the Chicago Bears. We are sitting here days before the start of the season. I obviously just drafted them. I don't know what round we're in, but what do you guys think about the Chicago Bears this year? Like, what is their true ceiling? And from a win perspective, like, where do you see this team finishing in 2025?
Well, I mean, I think this team, the reason people were high on them last year is because this team is talented. And they made some additions on defense that we talked about as they happened with Jared and Deo, that I don't know if those guys are actually impactful, but the defense had talent already. And now, they get in a defensive coordinator that I think is better than what they did last year. They can maybe get some of those secondary pieces to bounce back because they have talent in the secondary that maybe didn't play up to how good it was last year. And then I think you probably like what you saw from the offense in the preseason. Obviously, it's all small sample and it's preseason, but I would have picked them for sure if they had come back around. I thought about picking them ahead of the Patriots. The big red flag that they have, aside from all of the moving pieces, and they need Caleb Williams to just be better than he was last year and stop doing some of those things that people worried about when he was entering the NFL, even though he was, very clearly the consensus, top pick, that people were worried about some of the things that we saw in his rookie season. So all of that's a concern. But this division, this division is so difficult. It's so top to bottom filled with good teams that ultimately, I think that's why you were able to draft them where they were. Are they better than even the Vikings from a roster perspective? Probably not. Can Caleb Williams play better than JJ McCarthy? Maybe so, and maybe that gets them there. But ultimately, that keeps them down, right? We're thinking 7-8 wins, something like that. But I think if they were in a different division, if this team was in the AFC South, then we are feeling a lot better about this team. But ultimately, that division matters.
Do you tend to agree with that, Rich?
Yeah, I'm still optimistic on the Bears. I think their roster is good. Like Ray said, they just play in a tougher division. I think they have a tougher schedule than the other teams in the division, but that stuff could be mitigated as we see things play out during the course of the season. If they ended up better than the Vikings, would I be overly shocked? I don't think so. So yeah, I'm optimistic on him. I've liked what I've seen from Ben Johnson too this preseason. A lot more under center stuff. For Caleb, I think they're going to run the football a little bit better than they did last year. And the defense is still good. And it was good last year still throughout being put in just a bunch of hideous spots last season.
All right, we got 2 rounds left here. Let's polish this guy off.
Ray's got another one.
Yeah.
Well, y'all gave me all of this extra time, and I still have no idea who to pick here. I'm still not.
Do you want producer Adam to bring the coin flipper back on the screen? Maybe that can...
that might be where I guess I'll just take the Falcons, and I don't feel great about taking the Falcons here, but we do have the same, division, getting to play the Saints twice always helps there. And we'll see. I think what we saw from Michael Penix at the end of last season was good. I think we'll see a more explosive offense, and that's something you certainly like. The defense still has tons of question marks. Now we have offensive line questions where we previously didn't have them. That was one of the things you could trust about the Falcons, but now we have those concerns. They do have London. I do think Mooney's going to be back for week 1. Obviously, they have Bijan Robinson, and even if Bijan Robinson goes down, Tyler Algier is a good NFL running back that can make that work. So there are things to like about this team, but yeah, that defense might just be, kind of a fatal flaw. And now if the offensive line isn't quite as good with what essentially is a first-year quarterback, there are lots of concerns with this team. But at this point in the draft, I think I have to take the Falcons here over, some of these other options.
Yeah, the offensive line stuff is what it broke the tie for me between kind of them and the Falcons, right? I was just all right, I'm going to just swing on the Panthers. That is, was the offensive line's better because I saw them pretty similar too. So they had to go. I'll just by default take the Colts here, a team that won 8 games and literally the worst offensive climate of last season. And also I do like the moves the Colts have made on defense. Obviously getting Charvarius Ward and Cam Bynum, but also getting rid of Gus Bradley for Big Lou. Big Lou was the scapegoat last year for the Bengals, right? But I do think Big Lou can still coach some defense. I think his addition in that division, I have no faith in the quarterback situation. I'm just taking him here because I think they're just the best of the remaining bad teams.
Warren, talk about how much you like Daniel Jones. Tell us how much you're a big fan of Daniel Jones. And then
I've got to get that article. I still have to get that article up, Ray, just to make sure that I'm on record before the season saying that I don't think Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. But the one thing that I think that, Brian Daboll really held his hand. Hold on.
That's the alert, the Kelsey wedding.
Yeah, the Kelsey wedding.
Brian, I don't know if you guys can hear this. I'm hearing it in my ear. I tried to mute whatever I could, but I can't figure out how to get this thing to silence.
This is a problem for Warren having 17 computers and 13 other devices.
Yes.
Around his computer.
I'm muting it on multiple things, but it's coming through the computer because it's one of those signal calls. Okay.
Hey, there we go.
The thing about Daniel Jones is Brian Daboll really held his hand tightly, like a kid the first time you take him to an amusement park in the first season that he was there in 2022. And that absolutely helped raise Daniel Jones' floor and the overall floor of the offense. It is what helped get Daniel Jones that contract. But when Brian Daboll said, okay, now we got to let you spread your wings a little bit here. You're getting paid like it. I want to do more of my offense. Then everything crumbled. So it all depends on how closely Shane Steichen decides to call things around the positives that Daniel Jones can bring to the table, try to not do any of the things that could put him out there too far, like most quarterbacks would be asked to do. And if he really coaches around that, I think the floor will be high. He still won't look like a good quarterback, but the team will be able to find ways to win the games around Daniel Jones, which, to be fair, in some degree, that they were doing the same thing with Anthony Richardson. So that,
and the other thing, just one more thing on the Colts, and this is more of like a fantasy perspective. Daniel Jones fits so much better with who their best players are at wide receiver and tight end now with Tyler Warren. Daniel Jones fits much better with Josh Downs, with Michael Pittman, with Tyler Warren than Anthony Richardson did. And that doesn't necessarily mean I think that Anthony Richardson's a terrible quarterback that has no future. He has a lot of improvement to do, obviously. But if you're a coach that needs to win this year, which Steichen definitely is on that list, and you say who fits our weapons better, the answer is, I think, unquestionably Daniel Jones, which is a good thing for Pittman, Downs, assuming he's healthy. I think he's coming back good, and Warren from a fantasy perspective, because we're just going to see a lot of that. And to your point, Warren, that's also what they were able to do in New York a little bit with him as well. And so it all does mesh together well for Jones to at least lead a competent offense this year, if that's what ends up happening.
Yeah, I agree. And it doesn't hurt that they've got an easier than average schedule. And as long as their defense keeps them in games, they don't have to ask them to do a whole lot. I'm going to go with a team that just revamped everything this past year. New head coach, new play caller, new quarterback, new running back, and that's the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm not going to even pretend that this is going to get you something like what the Washington Commanders got last year, but we saw what happens when it works, when you put in new staff, new coach, new quarterback, and the Commanders obviously saw that upside with Jaden Daniels. I don't think that the Raiders are going to be a great team this year. I don't think they're going to make the postseason, but in this tier of teams that we're picking from, they're clearly, in my opinion, the next best team. So now we get down to, what is it? We got 5 teams left here. Last round, 5 teams left. There's 3 teams here that I could easily take. 2 teams that I would easily not take. But I'm going to just go with the win total board again, and I'm just going to go with the Tennessee Titans, who have a new quarterback and a much improved offensive line, only because I don't like the move that the Jets did with their quarterback. I don't see the ceiling with Justin Fields. And if Cam Ward can come in and really be excellent, this team could have a much higher ceiling than what the odds makers are currently projecting him. And their floor can't be much worse than what they were last year, in my opinion.
Who you got, Rich?
I'll take the Jets. No analysis, just by default.
Fair.
Here's the thing about the Jets. I'll do some analysis on the Jets. Here's the thing about the Jets. The defense still has a lot of talent. They hired a defensive coach. Yeah. The offensive line theoretically has talent, right? I will have to see how it works out. They could just defense and running game their way to wins, right? That is something that could certainly happen for this team. Like, we're talking about the one of the final 4 picks in our win total draft, right? We're talking about team 28 off the board. I'm not doing my math wrong. Team 29 off the board. And so, there's some stuff there. They would definitely have been my pick, but y'all have left me with the ultimate Sophie's choice here between the Giants, the Browns, and the Saints.
You get all 3 teams.
Can I just have all 3? Yeah, would that be fine? Obviously, we're not taking the Saints. They're not in the conversation. I am interested to take the Browns just because I think that offense with Flacco can at least be competent. If you look at the Browns over the last 3 years with Deshaun Watson, they've averaged 4.6 yards per play. With any other quarterback, it was 5.1 yards per play. With Flacco and Jameis Winston, it was 5.6 yards per play. And that's over 818 plays. It's not a small sample as the NFL goes for those things with Flacco and Winston. I do think the offense can be competent. And I think that in a neutral situation, they could win some games with Joe Flacco. The problem is that they start their season with the Bengals, Ravens, Packers, Lions, and Vikings. And so you wonder what is Flacco still starting after that run? What does that look like? And so ultimately, that's why I'm going to take the New York Giants here. I don't feel great about the Giants. Obviously, there are lots of concerns, but as I have said about the Giants, this team from a top to bottom perspective is probably better than we give them credit for. They have the obvious flaws along the offensive line. We'll have to see what happens at quarterback. But I mean, we're talking about defensive fronts. I mean, the Giants defensive front, going back to the Dolphins, the Giants defensive front might be the best one in the league, right? They do have they have strengths on this team. I think we like the coaches. I think we like Brian Daboll. And so maybe they're able to pull something out. Maybe they can be this every year, right? We have one of these last round picks that just come out of nowhere. I would probably bet on the Titans being that pick of our last round picks here, just given their division, and they've got a rookie quarterback and they added some talent last year. But on the defensive side, we'll have to see how it kind of all gels together on the offensive line too. But like, there are reasons to like the Giants. There are strengths of the Giants. Nobody considered the Saints, huh? Nobody thought about taking the Saints. No, that wasn't in our conversation here.
Not once did I consider the Saints. Could the Saints compete for being one of the worst teams that we've seen in like since 2000 or something like that? Is that how? Well, the funny part is they've got the third easiest schedule. I mean, they are playing in the NFC South, so like that's one of the main things that they've got going for them. But you do wonder a team like that if they reach a certain point in the season with the record and they decide we're focusing on 2026 and beyond.
But what does that even look like? How do you start a worse quarterback? Like, how do you get worse than?
I mean, they're out here trading for 28-year-old slot receivers. So like, I mean, they're clearly envisioning something different than we're all thinking.
Yeah, so until Matthew retired, right? Like they had like a veteran. They brought in Reed, right? They had like a veteran safety core. So like they still have Demario Davis, right? They still have Cameron Jordan. Like that's the thing about this roster is not only do we not expect them to win a ton because of the quarterback situation, some of that's beyond their control, right? With what happened with Carr, and Carr, at least I would say, is a competent NFL quarterback, even though he has his issues. Warren, you can post that red zone compilation again if you'd like to. But there are concerns. So some of that's out of their control. But yeah, like at some point you have to just accept reality. It doesn't like Rich said, it doesn't seem like they're quite there yet. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, all those Brandon Cooks targets, can't wait for them. Let's see it.
So based on the win totals by Vegas, updated 15 minutes before we started recording here, my team is projected to record 90.0 wins combined. Ray's team is projected to record 88.2 wins combined, and Rich's team is projected to record 85.0 wins combined. So that's what Vegas is saying about this draft. Very, very tight between Rich and Ray. Ray and I at the top, and then Rich a step down, picking at the second spot overall. But we'll see. Obviously, this draft tends to come down to, I mean, we were very wrong on a lot of our picks last year. And then, Ray got really right with his Denver Broncos pick. And
it's always the back half is where it's always decided. The back half of these drafts are where it's always won, because that's where you get the big swings. Because if you have a team with a 6 win total, win 10 games, like it's just a massive swing on that, because usually that round, the other two teams are probably still winning 4 to 5 games. Like Ray had the Vikings and Broncos last year at the back, and like those are, the Vikings won 14 games. Like right. That's massive when you're talking about in the same round a team goes that wins 5 games with them, right? Like that's a gigantic swing in this.
And a lot of these teams at the top of the draft that we're picking at the top of the draft, they're not going to win that many more games than they're forecasted to, and we're picking them at that point. But they're also probably not going to lose a ton more. And so even a team like the Jets last year really failed to meet expectations. They were drafted somewhat high. I think I ended up taking them. But what do they still win, like 7-8 games? So it's not like they really had a massive variance from their win total. But yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Some of these later round teams, the back half of the draft, and could it be a team like the Patriots or the Seahawks or the Falcons or the Cowboys even, or the Jaguars or the Colts or the Raiders, like the Panthers, any of these teams that we are drafting late, if one of them gets really hot and has a great season. That's what makes football awesome. So we'll see if Ray can go back to back here. But any final thoughts on the draft? Are we ready to get rolling?
I can't wait until the Saints win 10 games. Like I'm so here for the Saints just winning the division. That would be a prime. They could put all of our faces on freezing cold takes. It would be wonderful if the Saints just win 10 games. I'm here for that. That is the most fun outcome of this draft. I would rather that than me win, is have the Saints and Browns, who we didn't draft, combined for 20 wins among them. That would be the ideal outcome for me.
Rich, ideal outcome is you taking home the crown, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to win, but everyone's got wins under their belt. So no one has 2, right? I think I can't remember. Does anyone have multiple wins?
No, I think we've been doing this now for 4 years, and we've had 4 different winners each time, if I recall correctly. So we've each now once, and this is year 5. So one of us will be able to hold 2 bets.
That's true. Someone by default has to, unless it's a tie. But I guess.
Yeah, Rich has the Chiefs. So if we're thinking back to back, he's prepared. He's prepared for it.
The refs are going to help him out a little bit here.
Oh, wow! Shots fired.
11th hour.
Get him
with
Chiefs
something.
fans. Get him Chiefs fans.
My mighty Carolina Panthers pick will all come back to this. It'll all come back to.
It could very well. The Carolina is a sharp team.
When we're discussing if the Panthers actually won the trade in 6 months, Rich will be laughing into his win.
I will never be discussing that.
All right, well, guys, that'll do it for this draft. We've got tons more content, as you guys, I'm sure, have been seeing on our YouTube channel. So make sure that you are subscribing. If you're watching this right now, hit that subscribe button, because it really helps us out a lot. And we've got so much content up there, whether it's team previews, we've got some player props that are going to be going up there shortly. We've got a whole player props show that we're going to get to on Thursday night, which, by the way, should go ahead and announce that if you want to win some free, I don't know if it's merch, free packages from us up at Sharp Football Analysis, you need to be on our mailing list. And we're going to announce something about this. We're going to tweet it out. We'll also announce it via the mailing list. But if you're on our mailing list, which you can sign up for over at sharp.football, you're going to be able to reply to that mailing list on a mail that we send out on, maybe it's Wednesday night or Thursday morning, with your favorite player prop bet or future of any kind for the 2025 season. And we will select one of you as our favorite player prop or future for this upcoming season. And that prop we're going to be awarding some prize. We haven't figured it out yet. This is still in the works, but that show is going to be on Thursday. So make sure you go subscribe to Sharp Football Analysis newsletter up at sharp.football before then to get some free upside for when we do that show. And in the meantime, use code SHOW25 and get 25% off anything that we have up on the website. Really looking forward to talking to these guys, Rich and Ray, on our props channel to discuss some week 1 props, because I've already got my eyes on a couple of them. The week 1 prop lines are out. I've got some unders and some overs that I'm just salivating over, throwing up there momentarily. So I'll let them take a look at it, see what they think, and we're going to be getting some of those out to you probably within the next 24 hours. So make sure that you are subscribed to one of our betting packages over at Sharp Football Analysis. Use code SHOW25. Good luck in all your fantasy drafts. I'm sure you guys are getting busy with those. Make sure you take advantage of all of Rich's great work over at Sharp Football Analysis. Use code SHOW25. You can get 25% off the draft kit. If you have the draft kit already, make sure that you use code SHOW25 to take advantage of all of the in-season betting content. Use that on the bundle. It'll save you over buying the regular season package individually right now. So just get the bundle, take that 25% off that price. Really a great value on a per day basis. So make sure you guys check those out, and we will see you guys very soon over at Sharp Football Analysis on YouTube.
Go,